Okay, this is the craziest live I think I will ever do. So it's very fitting that on the very last day of my Uplift Live UK tour, because that's really what it feels like. And by the way, Devin thinks he's going to make t-shirts for me of all the places we've been. So anyways, the plan today was to just go back from Leeds to get to my cousin's house in Kent. But what do they say? The best laid plans of mice and men. So we got to the Leeds bus station today, and we were supposed to get our bus at 10, but the bus was delayed because of a traffic accident, and the bus couldn't get to us on time. So that was an hour, not a big deal. Thought we could pick up time. Finally get on the bus, and we start going on the bus, and the guy makes an announcement, our bus driver makes an announcement and says, we're going to have to stop at this service on the M1. We're going to have to stop and change to another bus. We're just like, okay, why do we have to get on another bus? So he pulls into this service station. We get out. Everybody's got to get out. You got to remember, this is a bus full of people all trying to get to London. So we're all dragging our suitcases off the bus, and we get on the other bus, and then we start to pull out of the service station. And I'm like checking my time because I'm supposed to meet Jeremy Freeman today. We were going to meet and have coffee here. So I'm looking at the time. And as I look up, I hear crash. We got into a car accident, or maybe you call it a bus accident. So what happened was our poor bus driver, he was just ready to leave the service area, and a semi-truck, over here they're called lorry, but this gigantic semi-truck that was empty with the back, but a really, really, really long trailer. For some reason, this guy decided he was going to back up in the service area, and he backed up into the bus, and the bus driver's honking and honking. This went right through the windshield where the driver was sitting, and you're hearing crash, crunch, and just we're like, oh my gosh, nobody knew what was going on. So luckily the bus driver was really shaken, because there's a gigantic hole in the windshield now where he's got his little steering wheel, and the whole side window is completely shattered. So he makes the announcement, we need another bus. So we're just like, oh gosh. So he says, we have to try and get them to send another bus to come pick us all up. So we're like, oh my gosh, how long is this going to take? So I'm sending messages to Jeremy going, I can't believe this nightmare. So then they decide they're just going to put us back on the other bus that we were already on before. And the poor bus driver, he says, I don't know why we had to get off the bus. It's not my it's not my fault. I did nothing to do with it. So we get back on the other bus and we start driving away. And he tells us we've got 2 stops to make, but then we need to stop outside of London to switch to another bus, because I'm not authorized to drive him to London. So we're thinking, can't they just send another bus driver? Like, why do we all have to get off at this bus? But we're like, okay, it's going to be fine. It's going to be fine. So we get to this service station, just outside of London, and there's no bus. And the bus driver's calling. And the guy who was supposed to be in charge, he just took off, and he wasn't answering his phone. So this poor bus driver, he's calling into the station. He's saying, I don't know what to do. Nobody is here. And the other dispatchers are kind of like, well, we don't know anything about this. So they're just like, we can get another bus, maybe at 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock tonight. And he says, I have a bus full of people that have been on the bus since 10 a.m. He says, we need to get these people to London. So they kind of start giving him the rigmarole. And he's just, really holding his ground. And finally, he just said, I'm taking these people to London. So he started taking us. He just said, heck with it. And he drove out of the service station, started taking us. Meanwhile, somebody on the bus starts freaking out and says, I want off the bus. And he's like, we're now on the interchange going back to the M1. And the guy's like, you're too long. This is taking too long to get to London. I want off the bus now. And he's like, I can't let you off the bus. There's nowhere to go. So long story short, he just said, sit down. We're just going to London. So that guy, I'm sure we could all have just gone up and pummeled him. It's just like, mind your own beeswax. So eventually we got into London, I don't know, like 5 o'clock at night. So we're like 2.5, 3 hours late. And then, of course, we're supposed to get a train here at 5 to get back to my cousin's house. Missed the train, missed seeing missed seeing Jeremy Freeman. So it's like, well, you know what? I might as well just go live and tell you all what happened. So without further ado, that's the bad part of my day. The good part of my day is the bus driver wasn't hurt. So that's a really, praying hands for that the bus driver was not hurt. Nobody on the bus was hurt. So that's always a good thing. And we did eventually get to London, because there was a point where I was sitting there going, I wonder if we can take an Uber. We're in a rest stop. Do they come to rest stops and you can take an Uber? I don't know. So the thing is that stuff happens, and you can either get freaked out, and a lot of people were really angry with this bus driver, and it was kind of like, cut this guy some slack. He's doing a good thing. So we totally commended this bus driver. We gave him a tip. It was just like, he was amazing. So he's my hero, the Megabus bus driver hero. So let me tell you about the good part of my week. So I'm going home tomorrow. It's the sad part, because I really like being here, and it's going to be sad to go home, but we're going back to the States tomorrow. My cameraman is coughing, so he's moving the camera a little bit. And we're going home tomorrow, so we're still got to figure out how we get from my cousin's house to Heathrow. And my cousin's not here; she's in Tenerife, so that's a great place to be. And we are heading back to the States tomorrow, so that's sad, but all good things come to an end. But I had a fantastic time here this last week. Just did some amazing things. So I'm going to tell you about who all I've seen. So I saw Ashley Leeds in Sidmouth. So we stopped off and had a visit with him. He wanted to show us the sea. Just fix this here. He wanted to show us the sea, and it was pouring with rain. So we just said, okay, it's cool. We'll still see the sea. And then we went for lovely tea and scones. And this time we had it the Devon way, which is #cream first. So we had a fabulous time. I think she was the owner of the restaurant, was an American, so it was kind of fun to talk with an American in the middle of England. So we had a marvelous visit with Ashley, and we got to see his shed. We got inside the shed, and it's like, Ashley is such a nerd. Everything is voice controlled, so it was just like, I'm not sure what the commands were, but it's like he said a command, and the lights went on, and this went on, and this happened. So it was absolutely fabulous. So anybody, you need to ask Ashley, let's give us a tour of the shed, because it was amazing. It was amazing. So we left Ashley's, and then we headed to Bournemouth. And the reason why we went to Bournemouth is we were looking for my grandmother's grave on my mother's side. So, being British born abroad, I've got British parents. So, of course, I told you the story about my great-grandmother on my father's side. Well, we also wanted to find my grandmother on my mother's side, and that would be her mother. And she actually had TB in the 1940s. And at that time, when somebody had TB, they just shipped you out of London and they sent you to Bournemouth. They just said, here's a seaside rest place. And they kind of just sent you to a place to die. And she had an unmarked grave. And we thought, nobody's ever been back there. So we decided we'd go. So we get into Bournemouth, buckets of rain, cats and dogs and elephants, so much rain. But we actually found where it was. And here's a tip for anybody. If you're ever trying to find a grave, then in an old cemetery, because I think she died in 1940, I think it was, and she was only 37, which is so sad. But anyways, a tip is go into the office and you ask, who are the neighbors? And that's how we tracked her down. So, I had a map. It's like this area, this plot number. Well, there's no numbers. It just works out in their computer, but it doesn't really work out in real life. But Devon's got the navigation gene, which I don't have. So Devon was like, right, okay, here we go. And he found it in 2 seconds. So meanwhile, my sister and I, Janet, we're walking all over this place, soaked. Our feet were soaked. Our legs were soaked. We had umbrellas, but we were just soaked. But anyways, it was wonderful. So we left Bournemouth. Next, we went on to Southampton for the night. And then the following day, we went to Oxford. Oxford is an amazing place. So now I can tell everybody I've been to Oxford. So, and I have the t-shirt to prove it. Well, I didn't actually get to study in Oxford, but it was really fun. And we went to a library because if you know me, you know I love libraries. So we went to a library called the Weston Library, and they were having a Chaucer exhibit. So we got to see all these amazing things about Chaucer and the Canterbury Tales and originals, and so that was fabulous. And then we met another friend. I met up with Catherine Ledger, who was actually coming home from her family in Northumberland. And so we were like, okay, let's find a place to meet. It was outside Oxford. We met at a beautiful place and we had tea on the river, and it was fabulous to see her. So we had a wonderful visit. And I actually had pictures I was going to show everybody, but there's no way I could access those. So I'll stick them into the chat later when I get home, because I was going to do such a great little slideshow and show you Catherine and I having tea. We looked so elegant. So after we left Oxford, this was a long driving day, we went from Southampton to Oxford, and then Oxford to Hereford. And we got our taste of UK traffic jams. There was like 3 of them. And it was just like, oh, you crawl, you crawl, you crawl. But eventually we got to Hereford, had to fiddle around trying to find somewhere to eat. We got in pretty late at night, had something to eat. And then the next day we went off on a road trip. Like, we hadn't driven enough. And we went to this place called Whitney on Wye. And Wye is the river, W-Y-E. Whitney is, of course, my husband, and of course me too. And we found like the ancestral home. Not necessarily the home, but it's like the castle that was in all the notes, because Devon's mom had like done all this great genealogy. So we were reading all these notes about the family and their church, and you know, the church was still there. And this, I don't know, as an American, I found this absolutely incredible. I decided I'd just open the church door just to see if maybe somebody was in there, and they weren't. But there was a little sign by the door that said, please turn the light off when you leave and make sure you've shut the door, because birds come in and birds can't get out. So I said, well, I'm going to take that as permission to wander about the church. And we did. We wandered about. We saw Devon's family, like I'm talking like back in the 1200s, were benefactors of the church. So it was really, really exciting. So we bought a little postcard. They had like a donation box. We got a postcard. And then we kept driving, and we decided, let's go to Wales. So we kept driving, and we went to Wales, and we met some more LinkedIn buddies. So we met John Asperian and Lois Cliff, and we met for lunch. I can't even begin to say the name. It was not Andalusia, but Amber Grady or something like that. It was a really, really beautiful little town right in Wales, and it was just a gorgeous place. So we met at a pub, and we had a lovely, lovely lunch. And of course, I got to meet Miss Poppy, Miss Poppington, and she was adorable. She was adorable. So because she's a well-behaved dog, she was able to come in and sit with us at lunch, and that was just lovely, lovely. So we had a fabulous time with them. But then we left, and we're having car trouble. And we actually had car trouble in Ashley's driveway. So that's kind of when it started. And what it was we had an oil leak. So after we had finished visiting with Ashley, we pulled out, and he said, hey, there's an oil leak all under the car as you're pulling out. And we're like, oh boy. So we thought, well, we checked it, and we thought, well, you know what, we'll just check it in Bournemouth. So we got to Bournemouth, it was fine. We got to Southampton, it was fine. We got to Oxford, it was fine. We got to Hereford, it was fine. So we thought it kind of fixed itself. But when we got to Wales, it wasn't fine. So now all of a sudden, Devon's checking the oil, and we're like way low, way low on the oil. So it's like, okay, something's happened here, because there was another big oil leak. So to make a long story short, there was something dodgy with the car, and somebody had done something where they had plumber's tape around the oil seal. So they sent out a roadside mechanic. They actually sent him to our hotel in Hereford, because we had enough oil to get to Hereford. And they fixed this up in like seconds. So that was really, really good. We put more oil in, and everything was good. So that was like, so we left Hereford the next morning. And then we went north, which actually was a bypass through Wales again. So it's like, you know, you're getting all these text messages on your phone. Welcome to Wales. Welcome to England. And all these things. So now we were heading up to a place called Halifax, which is up in Yorkshire. And that's where my buddy Nigel lives. So we had a fabulous visit with Nigel and his wife, and we got to meet his son-in-law, his son and his daughter-in-law, and their two children, a little boy who's 3, I think he's 3, a baby, brand new baby, 3 months old, adorable. And this little boy, the 3-year-old, he was amazing. I'm not saying his name because I don't ever feel it's right unless I have permission. So I don't like to tell other people's family names. I never feel that's my place. So I do know his name, but I'm just not really, I just think that's not cool. So this little kid, he loves golf. like nobody's business. This kid, he's like probably staying up all night watching the Masters. And his parents, or maybe it was Nigel, I can't remember, they showed us videos of him golfing. And it's just like, this is the next Tiger Woods. So Nigel is going to be the most famous golfer, granddad golfer in England because of his grandson. He is just adorable. So we had a fabulous, fabulous visit with Nigel. And after that, we stayed overnight. Thank you, Nigel, for letting us stay with you. That was so, so kind. So after that, and he toured us all around. If you've ever heard of the show Last Tango in Halifax, it takes place in Halifax. And so Nigel took us to all the places. We went and had a drink, and from the locations where it was filmed, we went to a historic house where they filmed Gentleman Jack, which is another BBC series, which we haven't seen, but now we're going to go home and watch that. And so it was just a fabulous place. And then the next morning, he took us to a place called the Peace Hall, which is kind of like where old, merchants would meet in the middle of town, and they had their wool and their carpets. So it was awesome to have this history. And I'm terrible with math, but it goes back way, way far to have the math on that. So that was a fabulous visit. So let's see. After that, we went up to Leeds, and this became personal because I wanted to stop and see my cousins that live in Leeds, their first level cousins, and my uncle. And my Uncle Jimmy is 94 years old, and we got to have dinner with him last night. And it was such a treat, such a treat. And he remembered me. He remembered me being a kid and coming over to England when I was 14. Long story short, my mother put me on a plane and sent me here at 14. And just kind of said, you deal with her. So I met this aunt and uncle sight unseen, but they were amazing. So he remembered me. We talked all good memories, and it was just a fabulous visit. So fitting in family is an important part of when you're doing trips like this, because it's not just about business. It's not just about pleasure. It's also about connecting with your family roots. So whether that's running off into cemeteries and getting soaked, or meeting the people that are still alive that you can spend that time with, so, so important. So the only thing that was a disappointment was I did not get to meet Jeremy Freeman here today. I really feel gutted because I wanted to hook up with him again, and we were going to have a cup of coffee and a pastry. So we can't do that. But I told Jeremy, take a rain check next time I come back, because I'm coming back March 27th, Uplift Live 2025. I'm coming back in the audience, clapping and cheering for everybody else. And I will be here, and I'm going to put Jeremy at the top of the list and make sure that I get to see him, and we get to have that time that we don't get this trip. So that's my long story. What does anything have to do with LinkedIn? I'm sorry, I can't really think of anything except for the fact that when life gives you lemons, make lemonade. So here I was, I'm at St. Pancras, and I went, you know what, let's check the Wi-Fi speed here. And it looked like it would be okay. So I went, okay, why don't I just go ahead and do a live here? So anyways, let me go and have a look at all of these comments. Okay, so Jeff says, whoops. Thank you for allowing me to be a virtual part of your trip, Gillian. I've gotten used to being 5 hours behind you. I know, I'm going to be sad to go back to Pacific time, and all this good stuff happens when I go to sleep and I wake up, and all sorts of different things. Mary Wu says, hey, Jeff Young, I always feel like I'm a bit behind Gillian. It's true. It's true. You guys are on YouTube, so that's kind of fun. So Tina says, "Hi, Jillian. I know this place. We were there together the other day." Yes, this is such an amazing place. I love St. Pancras. It's good, and obviously they have good Wi-Fi. So Ella says, "Hi, Jillian. So great to see you at St. Pancras." So, it's only in the UK can you get such good Wi-Fi at a train station. It's quite great. And thank you for being here, Ella. It was just such a treat to meet you. And I just want to let you know the little video we made for Jeff, it touched his heart. He loved that. So Ella says, "Tina, it's where the road to Europe starts." Yes, it is, because this is where you get the Eurostar train. Sorry if it's not. Trains are right here. So yeah, this is where you go to Paris and all those other great things. Felipe says, "What a memorable trip, Gillian Whitney." Yes, it really is a memorable trip. This has just been a trip of a lifetime. Ella says, "You'll have to write your UK memoirs, Gillian." I've actually taken notes of every place I've been, everything that I've done. I think I'm like maybe 3 days behind, but I have taken really great notes because I did not want to forget this trip. Royce says, "You'll always remember this trip, Jillian." I will. This has just been amazing. And I want to thank Jeremy and Gus and John for the invitation to come over and be a speaker and be here for Uplift Live. So thank you guys for believing in me that I could add value to the conference. So I so appreciate that. Jeff says, "Blame the bus driver." No, he took charge and made sure you got there. And that's absolutely true, Jeff. And that's why we tipped him, because we just went, this guy was a maverick. This guy, he decided he wasn't going to do the "it's not my job" thing. It's not my responsibility. He made a decision. He did the best that he could. He kept us very calm. And bless his heart, when we pulled into the Victoria coach station, he said, "Thank you for driving with Megabus." So he still kind of kept it up. And, if you think about it, this guy was in a car accident. So, you couldn't imagine what it would be like to have a tractor, trailer coming through your window and the glass shattering. He still, my gosh, kept on going. So that guy needs a medal. Tina says, "Thanks for the tip, Jeff Young. Now I can hear Jillian's voice." Oh, good. Okay. I hope I was talking loud enough. Mary says, "You're seeing all the cool folks. Such great connections." Oh, yes. And there's so many people I didn't even get to. And I sent them notes the last couple of days to say, "I'm so sorry I did not get to see you on this trip." So reaching out to those folks for next time as well. And Ella says, "Great that you saw Ashley Lee's." Oh, he was just absolutely brilliant. He was so warm and friendly. He's one of those people that's exactly the same in person. But then again, so was everyone else. So there's not one person that I went, "Ooh, you're a little out of character." Everybody was the same in person as they were online, which is a testament to all the wonderful people that we know here. So Jeff says, "Woohoo, Tina. This is a great story." The UK adventures of Jillian. Oh my gosh. It's like, if I can survive this, I can survive anything. Cats and dogs and elephants. I never saw such rain. It was like, this was not like a little bit of rain. This wasn't tut looks like rain. This was like, where's the ark? Let me get the animals 2x2. It was a crazy rain, crazy. How lovely that you saw John and Lois, and they were lovely, and it was really great. I'm just going to give you a tip though. John Esperian, he's looking pretty tired because he came back from Uplift Live, and he's been working so hard. And the nice thing is, we met Lois on the day before her birthday. So that was even more special that we got to be with her, and hopefully she'll remember us as part of her birthday in 2024. So I think that was pretty special. And Nigel too. Nigel is just adorable, and he's so knowledgeable. So great on his history, showing us everything. It was just such a stellar visit. Just loved it. Mary Wu says, "But it does have to do with LinkedIn. Without LinkedIn, you wouldn't have built this fab community." This is absolutely true. And it was funny. Last night at dinner, I thought I would bring up some pictures to show my uncle of the family, because he was asking about my kids, and he was asking about my mom who's passed, and So I thought, well, maybe it would help him to, see some old pictures. And I realized they were all on Facebook and I couldn't get on Facebook. I was like doing security codes and all this sort of thing. And it was just like, okay, I'm sorry. I'm not a Facebook person. Oh, and there is Nigel Cliff joining us here right now. Yay! Thank you, Nigel. It was such a fabulous visit with you. Thank you for being so kind and welcoming us into your home. So with that, I'm just going to go ahead and tell everybody, thank you very much for tuning in. Thank you for, these crazy lives. To be honest with you, I don't know if they were a good idea, a bad idea, but the one thing that I did learn that I wanted to pass along to everybody is when you make a trip like this, you have to make a decision about, are you going to be here in the moment or are you going to be on social media? And I decided it was all about the people. And I feel absolutely terrible that I have, for the last 5 weeks, I have barely engaged with anybody. John did a Friday Shout reboot, and he had to tell me he did a reboot because I didn't even see it. But I'll have to show him that, like, my notifications were like a week old, so things weren't updating. But I didn't have any Wi-Fi. So we only chose to get Wi-Fi on one phone. We put it on Devon's because we needed to actually get phone calls and be able to do stuff. And it's really expensive. So anyways, I don't regret, I feel sad that I have not been able to engage with my network for the last 5 weeks. But on the other hand, it's about the people. And so sometimes you just have to make that decision about what are your priorities. And that's why I haven't been posting. Here we are here, and here we are here, because I can't engage with it. And if I can't engage with it, I don't want to post. So I do engage with all of the lives. And this was my way of kind of keeping you guys updated at the end of each week, give you this little recap and tell you everything. And afterwards, maybe people could drop me a line and say, yeah, it was fun, Gillian, or don't do that next time. we didn't feel that was valuable. So we'll just see. But if anything, I now have everything that I've done on these lives for the rest of my life. They'll be on LinkedIn, they'll be on YouTube. So I'll remember all of these. And it's just been such a joy. So I love England. I love Wales. I love Scotland. Look at all the places I've been, 3 countries. Next time I want to go to Ireland too. And actually, I have some friends over in the Amsterdam area, in the land of tulips and cheese that I want to get to. And I want to get over to Brussels. So next time I want to add in a little bit of Europe too and do some of that as well. But I just want to tell everybody, it's just been a fabulous time being here. I feel so enriched from this experience, and traveling is great. You learn so much, and sometimes there's challenges, but learning how to deal with those challenges, it's all part of the journey. So anyways, I will sign off. Ella says, we love your love of life, Gillian. Thank you. I really do love life. And even with all the rain, like when we went to Tintagel, and it was just like, no, they closed the castle. You can't go, too much wind. And it's just like, well, you can look at the castle. It's like, what is it? They say that when life gives you lemons, make gin and tonic. So sometimes forget the lemonade, just go for gin and tonic. So I don't drink gin and tonic. I actually drink beer. But I just think of all the places I've been and all the people I've seen. It feels like a Dr. Seuss thing. I have so enjoyed it. So thank you, everyone. I'll just read these last comments. Jeff says, you have been so helpful that I feel I actually got to take the trip as well. Thank you, Jeff. I wanted you to be here with me every step of the way. So I'm glad that you enjoyed that. And Nigel says, the real GW beats hands down the digital version. Yes, in person can't be beaten. So true. It's so true. It really can't be beaten. So thank you, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. I really appreciate you. And St. Pancras, if you ever want a place to go live in London, St. Pancras and Charing Cross are awesome. And with that, I will say goodbye, everybody.